I'm Augustus Waters.
I've been in remission for about a year and a half.
Maybe you'd like to share some of your fears with the group.
Oblivion.
What's your name?
Hazel. Why are you staring at me?
Because you're beautiful.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to WSJ Cafe. I'm Tanya Rivero. We're here today with writer John Green, author of The Fault in Our Stars, and actor Ansel Elgort, who's co-starring in the film adaptation of the novel. Welcome to both of you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
John, I want to start with you. Your novel is so loved by so many readers. It deals with a very touching love story between two young cancer patients. Were you at all hesitant about turning it into a film?
Yeah, I was very hesitant. I mean, I think Hollywood struggles not to tell sentimental stories, particularly when it's a serious or challenging circumstance. They often sort of fall into the trap of sentimentalizing those stories. But the producers of this movie and the studio promised that they wouldn't do that, and they kept that promise.
So you are pleased with the end result?
I'm thrilled, or else I wouldn't be here.
Right.
No, I am. I'm so lucky. I'm so happy. I love the movie. I'm so grateful to everyone who made it because I really do think it honors the story.
And yet you had no interest in writing the screenplay, correct?
No, and I'm a terrible screenwriter. I'm not particularly good at writing plots, as critics have pointed out. But screenplays are so structural, and novels, for me at least, are so character-driven, and they're allowed to be rambling. They're allowed to be kind of discursive, but screenplays aren't. And so I was very, very lucky that Weber and Neustadt, two of the best screenwriters working right now, were able to lend structure to the story.
In one article I read, you said that you don't have much interest in the way people actually speak. Yeah. You have more interest in the actual emotion that they are portraying.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the way we sound to each other when we're having a conversation than in the way we actually speak, because actual sentences in human dialogue are very rarely sensical. Like, they're almost never, they don't generally, like what I'm saying right now, for instance, would not translate well to the page because that whole sentence was completely undiagrammable. It doesn't make any sense, but you know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying, and it sounds good to me.
Right, so that's the magic of actual communication. Written communication is a little different. The other thing is that, you know, in these sort of star-crossed lover epics, really the hallmark of that genre is heightened language, and I've always loved that. I mean, I've loved it from, you know, Romeo and Juliet through the Virgin Suicides. I love that, the way that language can kind of raise up a story.
And so you feel the actors did a good job in taking your language or the screenplay?
Yeah, and it wasn't easy.
Making it real. Ansel,
yeah.
How did that work out for you? What is your process when you get a script? How do you work on it, and how do you create a character like Augustus?
Yeah, well, it's just that. It is really creating a character, and it's taking the parts of yourself that you see in that character and bring them out, and the parts of yourself that aren't, and putting them away, and then everything else you sort of fill in the blanks. So creating Augustus took a little while for me, and especially as you guys were talking about, like the tone and the way he speaks was something that was very difficult. And it wasn't necessarily finding out how would he say these lines, because if you start thinking that way, it's a trap as an actor. You don't want to think that way. It's more, why would he say these kind of things, right, and what kind of person would say this? And it actually wasn't until I met John that I understood, okay, this is the kind of guy who speaks in this heightened way, because John says stuff like Augustus would say. He's, you know, uses big words and says sort of fantastical sentences.
So did you guys work together? Did you coach the actors a little bit?
I didn't coach them.
Indirectly.
No. Indirectly. Just by being myself.
Just by being himself, because it helped us understand a lot. And also on set, him being there and being a positive, like, he was just very positive about stuff, and that was very encouraging to us. That's always a good thing.
Well, I was positive because you were doing a good job. If you'd done a poor job, I wouldn't have been so positive.
I wouldn't have. Yeah, you would have left.
I would have. You would have known that I wasn't that thrilled because I wouldn't have been on set.
Ansel, have you ever had such a love the way Augustus has in this book? I mean, you're a young man. He's a young man. Have you ever had something like that?
I feel that I should answer that question for Ansel. Do you mind if I
yeah,
jump
John
in?
can take this one.
I have.
Oh, well, there you go. That's the important thing.
I have, yeah.
In high school?
No.
Okay.
No. I was deeply and intensely in love with a woman in college for many years, and we had a wonderful relationship. But now I have this amazing marriage that I can draw upon with my wife, and the way that we fell in love was a great inspiration for me when writing the story, but also the way that real love works, the way that it can sustain you, the way that it can hold you up, that it's not all about the romance. It's really about the intimacy and mutual support.
Right.
And I wanted Hazel and Gus to get there. I didn't want them to be just this idealized image we have of teenage romance where it's so intense. Well, the intensity is awesome and everything, but what really makes those relationships special, whether they're romantic or not, is the connection and the intimacy.
And Hazel is based somewhat on a girl you knew in a cancer ward?
Yeah, well, I became friends with. I didn't meet her in the hospital. I met her through the community that surrounds the videos I make with my brother. But yeah, my friend Esther, who died of cancer in 2010 when she was 16, was a huge inspiration for this story. It's such an important part of my life. Not just an inspiration for the novel, but an inspiration to me generally and to all the work that I do with my brother.
So you were very close friends.
We became friends, close friends, and I certainly cared about her a lot. And I'd like to think that she cared about me a lot. But yeah, we certainly cared a lot about each other.
Was there a particular inspiration for Augustus?
Ansel always says myself, which I like.
Augustus is sort of like who John wishes he was.
I thought you were going to say Augustus is sort of like who John is. Young, handsome. No. I did think a lot about, I worked at a children's hospital many years ago, and I thought a lot about the young men I'd known there.
Right. Now, what about the big C part of this, the cancer? Have you ever known anyone personally who struggled with cancer in their lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have, and that's why this story touches a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot, like cancer is such a big thing in the world, and it affects so many people and affects so many families, and it takes people away from us very quickly or slowly, and it's often painful. But like what this story says is that just because someone dies to cancer doesn't mean that they're not important.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a really important message, and it's often not the main message. Often, as John says a lot, especially in movies, when people die of sickness when they're young or old, it's to teach the main characters who are healthy a lesson, and that's really stupid. Because whether or not you die young or old, everyone lives a life, and
they're not there to teach anyone anything.
Yeah.
Well, you have your life has meaning,
Right.
And your life doesn't have meaning because healthy people are learning about messages or whatever. Your life has meaning because it has meaning, and I tried to bring that to the story, and I think Ansel and Shailene and Nat Wolff did an extraordinary job of bringing that to life with their characters.
Did you see the dailies? Did you consult with the director on a daily basis?
Well, I mean, I was on set for almost the entire shoot, so I saw Josh every day, and I watched everything get shot. And but no, I didn't see like cut together dailies. I didn't want to. I asked not to. So I just wanted to enjoy the process of making the movie, support the people who were making it, and when I could have a little bit of, if I had anything that I thought might be useful, I would say it. But that was very rare. They were just doing a good job, so I didn't have much to worry about.
And Ansel, I want to talk a little bit about your co-star Shailene Woodley. You two worked together before in Divergent, but in different roles. You played her brother. So did that make it harder or easier to come into this role as her love interest?
No, it definitely made it easier. Especially, I think for both of us. This was, I think, my third movie out of high school. And in high school, I went to Performing Arts High School, and you worked with the same 40 kids for 4 years, and you ended up doing, Shakespeare with people, musicals with people, straight plays, all this stuff, and you get a sense of ensemble, and you're comfortable with everyone you work with. And it was like sort of the same thing with Shailene. We had just done Divergent together. We were comfortable with each other. We had this sense of ensemble. We were just really good friends. And I'm so used to working with my friends that it was nice. We could really just play off each other, go at each other, have some, we had some fights, and we had some, nice dinners, and it's really important to have that chemistry.
Absolutely. And what was that rehearsal process like with her? Did the two of you get together and rehearse on your own, or
No.
did the director not want you to do a lot of...
Shailene doesn't really believe in rehearsal, so I do because I'm from stage, but at the same time it was on my third movie, so I'm not really that experienced, and I just sort of like, Shailene knows what she's doing, so I sort of felt her, felt it out, and she was like, I don't want to rehearse, let's just let it happen on the day, and once we, she does rehearsal where she knows her own character, same with me, like I really wanted to understand Augustus, but then on the day you really just show up and like let it happen.
Right.
And then it's super organic and great.
But yet, how do you go through the process then of just memorizing your lines? Do you work with someone and run your lines?
That's easy.
That's the
I mean, that's
easy
something
part?
that's like, I don't know.
It wouldn't be for
I
me.
was going to say,
No,
for a lot
I know
of
that.
people, that's
No,
not
no.
so easy, right, guys?
It's like a muscle. It's like you really just get used to it. Like now I can memorize stuff so quickly. Or like if I read through something a few times, because it's just sort of, it becomes like second nature, it becomes your job.
Mm-hmm.
And how specific was the director about dialogue? I know some directors say, there was a period there was a comma, you didn't pause, or did he give you a little bit more leeway?
We also really respect it just because the dialogue was, a lot of it was taken right from the book.
Right.
So we didn't want to butcher that. Like imagine if I said, apparently the world is not a wish granting place. Like that, like if I would have, those lines are so important, you can't mess those up.
I would have stopped. I would have.
Yeah, you would have been like.
asked you to make an adjustment.
Yeah, John would have asked.
Yeah,
so
I would've-
Josh definitely would have asked.
Yeah.
And there's a whole scene in Amsterdam at the table where I say, I know that oblivion is inevitable and eventually the world will be returned to dust. And I'm not saying it right now because it's not right. But at the time, I had to memorize it and I had messed up a few lines. And Josh kept coming and be like, you cannot mess up this speech. This is like word for word from the book, and it's perfect. And you're saying it the way it is. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I want to. I just keep messing it up. I'm sorry.
How many takes did you take with that one?
Well, then there was probably a few of me like where I would mess up words, but then it was like literally maybe like 20 where it was really close doing it, because it's such an important moment in the film. And then it got cut together, and I actually didn't like the take he chose. And I was like, Josh, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think it's genuine. Look in my eyes. Do you really think? He's like, I think it's the best scene in the movie. I think you're so real. So just please look at it again. And then the final cut of the movie, you watch it, and it's a different take, and I think it's a better take.
Interesting. So you convinced the director to take another take.
Yeah, actually, I think, to be honest, I think it's one of the earlier takes, and I'm actually stumbling on the lines. But there's something about stumbling on the line which is more endearing than like having this whole speech. It's a moment where Gus is
open.
Am I allowed to say what he says at this point? It's not, right? It's in the trailer. It's not a big spoiler. Right? He tells her that he is in love with her. And it's like it can be a vulnerable moment for a young person to tell a girl who has also been a little bit defensive about, listen, don't love me, I just want to be your friend. And he says, I don't care, I love you. And instead of it being super confident, there's a confidence, but at the same time, when he sort of stutters on a word and messes up, and then that's endearing, and it's showing that, yes, he does have a weakness, and he isn't wholly sure, but he does feel this way, and it's much more endearing than just being there and this, I love you, and this and that.
It's so touching to hear you talk about that. I imagine that's probably what asking a woman to marry you is like. You're kind of sure she's going to say yes, but you're not entirely sure until you ask the question,
I was still
right?
pretty nervous.
You're still pretty nervous,
yeah, like
right?
she designed the ring and everything, and I still was
You're
like, I don't know, when you actually confront her with the reality, who knows?
I don't know what's going to happen in that moment.
Yeah.
It's all about those moments, right? And making those
they're just magical.
as real as possible. And so are you working on anything that we can talk about now, another novel?
I'm mostly working on online video stuff at the moment. I have a show with PBS and that my wife hosts. I have a show. I do nothing for it. I produce a show with PBS that my wife hosts called The Art Assignment that we're very excited about, working on Crash Course and some of our other educational initiatives. I am starting to write a new novel, but I think I got to wait till all this movie stuff dies down.
Absolutely. Now, you've said before that you have no interest in writing for an adult audience, even though The Fault in Our Stars clearly has an adoring adult audience.
Yeah.
Have you changed your mind about that?
No, I still like writing YA novels, but I'm very grateful that these days most of the people reading it are adults. I mean, I think it's great. I like having adult readers, but I like writing and publishing for teenagers, and I like writing about adolescence, so I think I'm going to keep doing that.
And why is that?
Well, teenagers are doing so many important things for the first time, and there's a heightened reality to it. There's an intensity to it that you don't get in adulthood, not in the same way. I mean, adulthood is much better, as any, it's much more pleasant. But when you're falling in love for the first time, when you're grappling with grief for the first time, when you're asking big questions about meaning and suffering for the first time, that's a really important part of your life. And you're asking those questions directly, without irony, without fear. And I like approaching those questions that way. I also like writing for people who are approaching those questions that way. And that's where a lot of the joy in writing and talking about ideas is with me. So I wouldn't want to leave that.
Absolutely. And Ansel, had you read any of John Green's books before you were cast? You can be honest.
No.
You read Fault in Our Stars?
I read Fault in Our Stars, yeah.
Yeah.
But none of the other ones.
Oh yeah, they're not that good.
No, I hear the other ones are very good. To be honest, I think before I read Fault in Our Stars, I hadn't read a book in like 2 or 3 years. And since Fault in Our Stars, I still haven't read a book.
Oh, brutal.
I'm terrible.
Oh, so that's now.
God.
That's why you have to write another
I feel like I
book,
got to.
or Ansel can read.
I'll read something to you. I'll read you
Maybe.
Gatsby. I'll sit on your lap and read you Gatsby.
The last book I read before that was like Grapes of Wrath or something.
Well, that will sour a person for a while.
Well, and let me just ask you
I
something.
actually like that.
I loved
was a
it.
Great book, great book. What were you both like in high school? Were you the cool kid?
Well, as you can imagine, Ansel was a huge nerd.
I mean, I can just picture it.
He had no friends. He struggled daily.
Well, like I could have been a big nerd if I went to a different school, but I
Yeah.
went to a theater school, so I was like the coolest kid because I was in the musical,
Right.
you know? Because I was in Hairspray dancing around on stage in a silver suit, I was the cool kid.
So you're a triple threat.
Oh, he is the total triple threat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Casting directors, ears just perked up everywhere.
Yeah. I was, I was a bit nerdy, but I also was lucky to go to a high school where nerdiness was celebrated, and
Where did you go to high school?
a small boarding school in Alabama called Indian Springs, and it was really an extraordinary place that allowed for people to engage with the world brilliantly. We had wonderful teachers, and it was rigorous, but also really supportive, and I think that's a lot of the reason why I was fortunate enough to be able to kind of go on to college and then find a job and do okay for myself.
Did you start writing in high school?
I did, yeah. I started writing seriously in high school. One of my friends, Daniel Alarcon, is now a very well-respected novelist. He pushed me along with some of our other classmates, and it was a really great environment for writing.
I think I read somewhere that you had a teacher once that said, "I know you're smart, but I've been smart a lot longer."
Yeah, Kluge. You may be smart, but I've been smart longer.
Yeah, and you said that really inspired you to think about.
I put it in my first novel. I liked it so much, and I emailed Kluge and I was like, "Can I steal this line from you?" And he was like, "To be honest, kid, I think I stole it."
Oh, all right.
So I was like, "All right, then it's okay."
Wonderful. Well, John Green, Ansel Elgort, thanks to both of you for being with us today. We can't
Thanks
wait
for
to see
having
what
us.
you're both up to next, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Great, guys. Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
really good to meet
awesome.
you.
Really nice to meet you. Thank you so much.